Hi, this is a flat cap cafe racer. I'm out at the local drag strip, Firebird Raceway near Eagle, Idaho. Today I will be giving riders who may want to try drag racing their motorcycles some tips. So stand by. Meerkat. First I wanted to thank the new family for the access for this video. Firebird has opened for 53 years now, since 1968, and is at 2,700 feet above sea level. That's 825 meters for our metric friends. It's been under the new family management since it's opened, and they still own it and run it. And a special thanks to Mr. Bill for taking these pictures. To find a drag strip near you, you can Google it. There's probably over 1,000 drag strips in the United States, either quarter mile or eighth mile. This video is aimed at getting novice racers on their stock bikes some tips on how to get started. I have been drag racing for 50 years as an amateur, so the tips and my tips and opinions are certainly not to be considered the best practices, just the way I do them. When you go online to find your drag strip, you want to go online and see the schedule. Try to look for something called test and tune. I recommend that be your first experience at the drag strip. It's basically a test session, so it's a lot less pressure. So when you pull into the drag strip, you're going to stop and pay just like everybody else, and then you tell them that you're going to be running, and they'll give you an inspection card, and you'll pay your $35 to $40 to do the test and tune. So you'll follow the signs all around to the pit area, and I recommend going to the pit area as close as you can get to tech inspection, because you're going to have to push your bike over there. Once you get to the pits, you want to go over and get your number. Since you're a novice, you probably won't have a number. So it's usually about tech inspection. You'll see a facility that you can go in and tell them you want a number, and you can select a number nobody's using, and it's usually about $5. You're going to need to apply that number at least 2 different places on the bike. Usually on the front, and another one on the side, usually the tower side. You can apply just white shoe polish you want, or you can have a number plate and put your number on there. The number needs to be visible from the tower so they can read that, and you can get your slip at the end, because your number will be on your slip. Now you're ready to go to tech inspection. I recommend you check your rules out. Depending on how fast you go, you may have different rules for what kind of protection you need. But generally speaking, you'll need at least a leather jacket and long pants, boots, gloves, and a helmet with a snow rating on it. I recommend having your leathers and boots on, especially if you're by yourself and while you're pushing the bike over to tech inspection. The gloves, by the way, will have to have either a Kevlar insert or some sliders on the outside. Just most drag strips are like that. So you push over to the tech inspection and bring your technical inspection card that you got at the gate, fill out, and the inspector will take a look at the bike. Generally speaking, there's nothing really special you have to do to the bike. You don't even have to remove the mirrors. However, I'd recommend removing the mirrors. You don't have to tape your headlight. You don't have to safety wire anything. They're just looking for the general condition of the bike and making sure you got your safety gear on. Tech inspection usually only takes a couple minutes. If you have running a GoPro camera, you need to point that out. The GoPro camera needs to be mounted with metal mounts, and it needs to be in a metal case. Okay, now that you're through in tech inspection, you're just going to go back to your pit area and listen for the announcer. He's going to call groups on test and tunes, and you'll know what order your group's in is because he's going to tell you the order you're going to run in. So you'll listen to the group that's right before yours. So when the announcer will make the call, like first call for bikes and sleds, is at the time that you'll proceed down to the staging area. Staging area is located right next to where the starting line is, and there'll usually be an area marked out. I'll show you that. So as you as you're going down there, you'll probably you're going to get down there. You're probably going to have to wait once you get down there. So you can have your helmet on loosely or your gloves on your gas tank or whatever. You just need to get down there. And when you get down there, you'll pair up next to somebody, and whoever you're paired up next to is the one you're going to end up racing. There'll be an official at the staging area right before you go onto the track. So when you get to be the second or third one from going out to the track, you want to make sure you have all your gear on, you have your GoPros turned on. If you're running with traction control, that's fine, but if you want to turn your traction control off, that'd be a good time to do it, and making sure you're in the right riding mode. If you got a sport mode, you want to make sure you're in that. If you're first time out the track, you might want to run with your traction control on. It'll be a little slower, but it'll be a little safer also. You want to make sure that your bike is warmed up before you go out to the track. So it doesn't hurt to let it idle for 20 or 30 seconds. Okay, the track official's now giving you the okay to pull onto the track. As you slowly pull around, the water box is used to warm your tires up and make them a little bit stickier, and also it's used to kind of clean off some of if you have any debris on it. As a novice rider, you won't be using it. That's mostly for bikes about 150 horsepower or more. You'll find out you'll have more than enough traction out there without using a water box. You want to be careful and not get your tires wet in the water box, either the front or the back. If you do get your back tire wet, you go ahead and do a small burnout to get the water off. But you never want to get your front tire wet. Just one more thing on a water box. Usually the etiquette on using the water box is do not do the burnout to the riders on the line who have already launched and gone. So after you finish using the water box, you'll see an official there. He'll give you the motion to pull up to the starting line. Now it's officials giving you permission to slowly pull up to the starting line. Your heart will be pumping really fast and hard. My recommendation is to select a spot near on the starting line that is not where the car tracks are. They tend to be really, really sticky, and you're going to find that you have more than enough traction. In fact, as you walk and move your feet across that, as you slowly pull up to stage, you'll see that your feet will almost stick to the pavement. It's hard to see the starting line. If you look towards the middle of the track, what you're going to see some wooden boxes over in front of the Christmas tree. And those boxes are the two staging lights. When you pull through the first one, you'll light the first blue light. Then as you pull up to get properly staged, you'll light the second blue light. More on the launching on the Christmas tree a little bit later. The first staging beam that you're going to cross is about 7 inches from the front of the starting line. There's etiquette here too, folks. You want to make sure that you don't light both of the staging lights at the same time. So you'll light one of the bulbs and he'll light one of the bulbs. Then it really doesn't make any difference who lights the second bulb. But once the second bulb is lit, you only have a certain amount of time for it to get ready, because it's going to start counting down. Now on the Christmas tree, there's two kinds of Christmas tree. There's a sportsman tree and a pro tree. If you're doing a test and tune, most likely you're going to be doing a sportsman tree. That means after the two blue lights at the top are illuminated, it's starting to start counting down. It's going to count with the three yellow lights. They're 0.5 of a second apart. Then it's going to have the 0.5 of a second part to the green light to go. Now the pro tree is a little bit different. Once you start the two blue lights and you're staged, it's going to count down too, but it's going to flash all three yellows, and 0.4 of a second later it's going to flash the green. It's a lot harder to do the pro tree than it is the sportsman tree. When you get your ticket, you'll notice your reaction time. Your reaction time is based on the time when the light turns green till you break the second beam on the staging light. So that reaction time can go from all zeros to a few seconds. But to understand that your ET has nothing to do with your reaction time. You can have really slow reaction time, but your ET can still be good because it doesn't start until you break the beam on the second staging light. In this next part, you're going to see what you need to do while you're doing the staging in preparation to launch. Now we're going to back up just a little bit so we can show you what you need to be doing while you're staging. Now you're pulling up and getting ready to light the first pre-stage light. Remember when we talked about the etiquette about that earlier. So you're going to very slowly go up to that first light. Once you get the first light, then you have some other things you need to do. My advice as a novice rider is to set your RPMs fairly low, maybe 3,000 to 4,000 RPMs. That way you don't do a pop a wheelie or anything like that when you first start off. The main thing is to get a steady RPM. Keep it steady as you pull into the second light, staging light. When you set the second staging light, you want to make sure your RPMs are very steady. You're not going up and down. That's pretty dangerous. Now that you got your second light lit, you need to make sure your elbow on your throttle hand is up, and you want to make sure there's just a little bit of space between the clutch lever and your bar, maybe about a finger's length. That'll have you almost bike pulling forward, but not quite. You shouldn't be looking at anything but the Christmas tree at this point. So once you set that second blue light, it's going to be yellow, 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 green. Now you have to decide how fast you react and with your bike. When do you leave? If you wait till you see the green light before you leave, you're going to have a very slow reaction time. So you want to figure out when you want to leave. For myself, I might leave just as the third yellow light is going out. Some others leave when they see the third yellow light. It's all rider dependent. Okay, when you launch, you want to make sure you roll the throttle on, not jerk it, and do not pop the clutch. You're going to slowly release the clutch out. So when the clutch is fully released, hopefully you're at fully open throttle. When you launch, how good your launch is will be reflected in your 60-foot time on your ticket. It's very important for you to get a good launch. Every 1/10 of improvement on your launch will give you about 2 to 3/10 extra or better ET at the end. So get your feet up smooth, sleeve together, and look and focus down the track. The lighter your bike is, the more important it is to bring your both feet up together nice and smooth, not to disrupt the bike and push it towards any direction. The most important shift you'll make is between first and second, and that's what will be reflected in your 330-foot time. More shifts are missed and rev limiters hit there, and you lose a lot of time bouncing off a rev limiter or missing a shift. On most bikes, it's very difficult to hit second gear too early, but it's very easy to hit second gear too late. So make sure you try to get second gear as quickly as you can. You also need to preload your shift lever. If you missed a gear, depending on how fast you can get it back in, but you'll at least lose 1/10 of a second. If you hit the rev limiter, you'll lose at least 100th of a second on a quarter mile. When you get into third gear, it's a time you need to start getting into your tuck. Get as low as you can and pull your arms in as much as you can. Watch or listen to the RPMs. You don't want to stretch it too far on third gear, and keep an eye focused somewhere down track so you don't weave all over the track and lose time. My recommendation is to shift about 500 RPMs before your cuts into your rev limiter. You're already stalling out when you're getting that close anyway, so holding on to hitting the rev limiter is not going to gain you anything. It's going to lose you time. Depending on your bike, you're either going to go through the quarter mile in fourth or fifth gear. it's better, most bikes will need fifth gear. You're better after you finish the first eighth of a mile is looking out, and if you see that you're not going to be able, or you're going to be stretching fourth gear to a red line, you're better to cut that distance in half and shift early into fifth gear so you don't lose momentum. Some riders get distracted and get down to the 1,000-foot line of markers and think that they're at the end of the track and roll off. You need to go 1,320 feet for the quarter mile. If you let off at 1,000 feet, you'll lose a lot of time and lose a lot of speed and maybe lose a race. Okay, as soon as you cross the line, you want to roll off your throttle and slowly apply steady pressure to your brakes till you get it slowed down to 20 or 30 miles an hour. Look for the return road and watch for the other rider. My preference is always to let the inside rider next to the return road go first, whether I'm ahead of him at the end of the race or not. You'll go up the return road about an eighth of a mile. There's speed limits on this, and you need to make sure you follow the speed limits or you can get kicked out. But about after an eighth of a mile, you'll see a timing slip place. It's usually on the left-hand side of the road, so you can get your timing slip. They'll look at your number on your bike. They'll hand you a slip. Briefly look at the timing slip. Make sure it's got your number on it. Place it under your left hand, between your hand and your hand grip. Then proceed to your pit area. Do not try to read your timing slip as you're going on the return road into the pit area. You'll end up hitting someone. When reviewing your time slip, remember the most important thing you can improve on, especially as a new rider to the drag strip, is what you do, your consistency. Do not worry about the bike and making changes to the bike the first 3 or 4 times you're out, because most of this really improvements you can make are to yourself, your reaction time, your launches at your 330 foot, and so on, not the bike. Quickly write down the gearing you have on the bike, the tire pressures you ran. If you can, remember what RPM you launched at, and make a note to yourself or in the back of your timing slip, what did you think you need to improve on? And track those changes each and every time you go out so you don't make the same mistakes 3 and 4 or 5 times. You can improve your reaction time by finding out your friction zone and when you need to start your launch from the Christmas tree. You can improve your 60-foot times by getting your clutch released out quickly and having your throttle rolled on. You can improve your 330-foot times by being able to hit second gear at the appropriate time. The rest of the track, the improvements, is making sure you don't weave up and down the track, and make sure that you preload on all your shifts and get tucked in, and don't wind the RPMs out to the red line before you make your shift. There's some professionals out there. Ricky Gatson and Chris Morrison has some pretty good videos on how to do things too. But hopefully some of the tips I give you will help you get interested in coming out to the drag strip. I wouldn't be doing this for 50 years if I didn't think it was a blast. So come on out. Look forward to seeing you. Join me and my friends at Flat Cap Cafe Racer for riding and racing. Please subscribe.